Hey, my name is Zeus Tipado, a writer for Healing Maps, and let's talk about the single worst psychedelic trip I ever witnessed. Up until this point, we've discussed mostly psychedelic science in depth, but I wanted to change it up just this one time. Bad psychedelic trips can often be a traumatic or frightening experience that happens when a person usually takes a large dose of psychedelics. In science, we call these bad trips challenging experiences in order to remove any negative connotation. Quite often, people that have bad trips or challenging experiences say that although it was a troubling time, they learned a lot from this experience and they integrated their journey within their life in a positive way. Or, as I like to say, even the bad trips are ultimately good. But you're watching this video to hear about the single worst psychedelic trip that I've ever witnessed. So let's get to it. I was living in North Carolina at the time, and psychedelics were, and still, notoriously hard to access out there. However, surprisingly, a head shop sold a substance known as salvia divinorum. If you've never heard of salvia divinorum, it's a powerful psychedelic that interacts with not serotonin receptors, but kappa opioid receptors, located mostly in the prefrontal cortex, or the front of the brain. It produces extremely intense DMT-like experiences that completely take over your entire field of vision. And on this Friday night in North Carolina, a couple of friends came over and I just so happened to have a pack of salvia divinorum and an eager psychonaut in my living room. When I say eager, I mean really eager. My other friend and I were trip sitting for my eager friend. We tried to warn him that although salvia may look like cannabis, it's really not at all. This eager friend really didn't take our advice. He told us that he's tried LSD and shrooms before and that he was ready for anything. Well, or so he thought he was. Salvia divinorum is a green leafy substance that is generally placed on top of cannabis and inhaled through a pipe or a bong for a ripplingly huge effect. And that's what my friend did. Despite our warnings for him to take it slow, he ripped the entire bowl, which was enough salvia for the three of us combined. The effects of salvia happen almost immediately, at least as quick as DMT. So my other friend and I looked at each other knowing that our eager friend was in for the trip of his life. Just after inhaling salvia, my eager friend put the bong down and within seconds, he slowly rose from the sofa and started to cautiously move around the living room on all four limbs. But not like how an animal walks around, more like how a scary zombie on The Last of Us contorts their body and aimlessly walks around like a disfigured spider. Suddenly, he dropped himself back on the sofa with enough force that the entire frame of my cheap IKEA sofa cracked right in half. At this point, I knew things were going to get crazy. My eager friend suddenly stood up from the sofa and started to wander around my living room with his hands outstretched as if he were some psychedelic mummy searching for something. Moments after he started doing this, I heard a loud crash. So I looked down and this guy knocked over my coffee table along with my new bong that I just purchased. Still, it wasn't that big of a deal. I was more concerned for the safety of my eager friend until he started to walk around my new TV that I just mounted on the wall. So I quickly got in between him and the TV just to make sure nothing else would get damaged. Around this time, my eager friend started to mumble something under his breath, words that I couldn't fully understand until he got progressively louder. These mumbles turned from incoherent babble to help, help, help! My eager friend was yelling, "Help me!" at the top of his lungs and grabbing onto me. Then he dashed to a corner of my hallway, screaming, "Help me!" with tears in his eyes. I put my arm near him so that he could know somebody was there, but I didn't want to surround him too much. This lasted for about a minute or so, and then my eager friend immediately stood up and repeated, "I gotta get out of here. I got to get out. I have to get out. I gotta get out. I gotta get out." He started fiddling with the door handle to go outside, and my estimate was if he could solve a small cognitive puzzle like unlocking and opening a door, he was relatively back to his normal self. He eventually opened the door and walked outside, and I looked around at my living room, which was like a post-apocalyptic scene. Shards of glass and wood everywhere. My eager friend came back inside with tears in his eyes. He asked if he did all this damage. I told him to sit down in my chair, the last one I had, and quickly got him a glass of water and some tissues. Then I asked, what did he see? And he told me, just after he smoked salvia, my eager friend said he was transported to an open field where he was touching blades of grass with his fingers. All of a sudden, he heard a loud trumpet sound come from the sky. He looked up and he saw the sky part in half, and God emerged from the heavens. My eager friend said that this trumpet sound marked the end of the world and that he was simply not emotionally or spiritually ready for the end of everything. So he freaked out. So what happened to my friend after the trip? How did he integrate this experience in his life? Well, he gave up cannabis. Actually, he gave up psychedelics too. In fact, he left North Carolina and moved to an area deeper south in America and became ultra-Christian. Wild story, but absolutely true. It's been a year since I've talked to this eager friend, but the last time we talked, he told me that this trip was the single most significant experience in his life. And that is the single worst psychedelic trip I've ever witnessed.